Hey, Colorado Springs. This is Jenny Bayless, and I am here with my co host, Leah Keeling. And we are going to talk about a house hack property that she helped her client get into not too long ago. Leah, welcome.
Thank you. How are you, Jenny?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to chat with you about this one.
Yes. Yeah, this is a good one.
So, why don't you fill everybody in on the client and the property, and then we'll get into the numbers.
Sure. So, this client is a repeat client of Envision. He is an awesome guy. I worked with him in 21 on a super cool house hack in Colorado Springs. Probably one of the coolest properties right near Garden of the Gods. Has a separate entrance, completely converted into a duplex with the basement. And he's cash flowing on that one about $1,000 a month currently. I know. So that is just insane. And
And how much did he put down on that? Do you remember?
I want to say put 5% down on that one.
And it was about 400. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was 425.
Okay.
I mean, that was one of the coolest properties that I've seen for our investors in Colorado Springs. Such a cool, gorgeous property. And he's done a lot of work on that one. And so he, called me up and said, I'm ready to get into my next one. He knew that he wanted to be up in the mountains and have like a cool, mountain property.
Mm-hmm.
And he sent me the listing and was like, this is the one I want to look at. And so that is how that started. He made my job pretty easy. So the property is 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. It sits on 4 acres and it's in Divide, so up in Teller County.
Okay.
Gorgeous, gorgeous property, well kept by the owners. It didn't need a lot of initial repairs. So just a gorgeous property. We spent like 2 hours on our showing up there hiking around. So yeah, we both fell in love with it that day. So
and just to fill everyone in, you are familiar with that area, having lived there before as well.
Yes, I lived up there for many years. That's where I went to high school, was in Woodland Park. So I'm really familiar with Teller County. I love it. So
That's
beautiful.
Great. That's great. So definitely talk to Leah if you have any interest in living up in the mountains down here.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit, what was the property listed at? What did you guys get it under contract for? That sort of information.
Yeah, so they had just done a price drop just a couple days after we looked at it. We were kind of just working on some things on our end with lending and stuff like that. So we had a few days there to spare, and they dropped the price from $435 to $399, which was insane. I thought $435 was a great deal for that property and just the comps in the area. But they, the sellers were really motivated. They had, certain things going on with them that they had to get off the mountain. And so dropped the price to $399. Our first offer we submitted was $395 with $10K concession. And they were not going to accept that. They said that they wanted at least $405 and that they would entertain our $10K concession. So that's what we did. We submitted it $405 and $10K in concessions, and they accepted.
Great. And just to kind of fill everyone in on this approach, I think that it's a welcome change based on how the market has evolved a little bit over the last few months, and that, before, anytime a seller saw a concession written on an offer, they would just, discount it as not being very serious or very strong. Whereas now you're able to write in concessions, and I really like them when we're trying to minimize the cash into a property, which this house hacker was intending on doing. He put 3.5% down, so he wanted to minimize the amount of down payment on this property. And with a concession, although you're financing, a higher purchase price, you're getting a dollar for dollar credit back on, your cash out of pocket when you're acquiring this property. And it can go a long way. Like, you can use it to cover, your closing costs, all that. And then sometimes even, initial startup costs to get the property fixed up. So it just reduces the amount of cash out of pocket. And we're seeing that come back in style now. So definitely something for buyers to consider going forward.
Yes, it's been so nice for buyers having the ability to do that, just to cut some of these closing costs or whatever it is, buy down the rate. It's just been awesome. I've had so much luck with it the past several months.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's super encouraging for buyers. We're not always in this market. So I say take full advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I totally agree.
Yeah.
So his rate was 6.75%, which definitely is a lot higher than what we are used to seeing on this spreadsheet. But as we're about to show, it still works. Like, so that's, kind of what I love about this investor strategy is, he knows what he wants to do and he's just gonna, make it work and just, not get discouraged by the change in rates, and kind of use that to his advantage, such as, negotiating better terms for himself. So I think that's important to highlight as well. So you also have seller credits of the 10,000 that you mentioned, plus another 4. Was that something that came up during inspection?
Yes. So inspection was interesting on this one because it does have a well. So during our well flow test, the water just stopped stopped working. We had all the water running, I think it was maybe close to 200 gallons or something, and it just went dry. So we were in a complete state of panic. The inspector was like, okay, like, I haven't seen this very often. Like, he was calling his boss, like, what do I do? And I just immediately start calling well companies. The client is too. We're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So come to find out, they recommend in Teller County in that area and Divide that your well is 500, has a depth of 500 feet. So his well only had a depth of 200. So just for the amount of people that live there now, that's just not enough depth. So, they recommend either drilling farther down and replacing that well, or you can just go the cistern route, which was what he decided to do. So he's having a cistern installed, and then the well is going to feed the cistern. So it's a pretty cool setup, and that will just, have that problem remedied, because that's, that would be an issue if you're doing laundry and your tenants are showering, and you run out of water. So
yeah, especially when you're doing a room by room strategy, that would be hard to to work around for sure.
Oh, for sure. And this property is awesome because you can do short-term rental up there as well. They don't have any restrictions on that right now as of yet. And so, there's so many different things he can do with this property, and the water, that was a huge issue. But I'm glad that we were able to do our research on that and figure out a solution. And the sellers were, willing to give us that additional vendor credit. So it worked out.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So what rents is he getting in this property?
Yeah. So in the basement, there's 3 bedrooms. He has all of those rented out. So 2 of them are at $800 a month. And then the third one is at $700 a month. Right now he has the whole upper level, which he's just loving for his peace of mind. But he, will eventually rent out that 4th room, and he's going to rent that one at $700.
Great. So, and then what do you think that his bedroom would go for?
Well, right now he's in the master. And so it has an ensuite bath, gorgeous, gorgeous mountain views. I think he could get 900 for that room.
Great. Okay, so he is self-managing, and you guys have about 5% for maintenance reserves in here. It sounds like the house is newer and in pretty good shape.
Mm-hmm.
And then so property taxes, we have about 1,400. Property insurance, just shy of 1,900. Utilities, which are typically paid by the landlord in a room by room strategy, of about just shy of 2,600 a year. And then we have internet for about 1,650 a year. And he obviously, having done the strategy before, he knows what's needed, and so it probably made things a lot easier for him to make his decision off of.
Yes.
So we will go to the cash flow statement here. And so his net operating income is about 25,600 for the year, minus mortgage payments, minus his PMI, because he put 3.5% down. He is at a grand total of negative 6,500 for the year at a cap rate of 6.3%. And just to highlight, he only put $14,000 down into this property, and he's paying about $550 a month for himself to live there. I think that's pretty phenomenal to be able to own an asset by putting $14,000 down and then only having to pay $550 a month thereafter, from a monthly standpoint.
Yeah.
I don't know of too many other situations where you can do that. So that's pretty darn good, I think.
Yeah,
And
especially up there at that property. It's like, what? I mean, that is a steal.
Yeah.
It's such a cool property. So yeah.
And let's go back and assume he does move out, and we will rent out his bedroom for 900. So now after he's moved out, remember he put in $14,000 and he's making $3,500 a year in cash flow, which bumps up his return to about an 8.8% cap rate or a 24% cash on cash return.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so he'll make his cash back in about 4 years, having done that. And gets to own a really cool property. So that I think that this is, we don't really get to see what I would consider like a home run deal all that often. We see base hits, maybe second base, third base. This is just phenomenal in my opinion. Especially having seen the photos of the property itself, too. I mean, I think that's just like the cherry on top. That is just absolutely gorgeous and very peaceful looking. And yeah, it's just I'm very happy for this client.
Me too. And there's so many possibilities with this one. I think his ultimate goal is doing like a short-term rental, or he's always full of all these inspiring ideas, and so he is thinking like possibly like a space for artists to come and do like wellness weekends and stuff like that. And so he's just has so many ideas for this property, and it's perfect for all of them. So he can just pivot into a different strategy, I think, pretty easily in this property. So really, he wanted to get it in there, get the rooms rented out while he's doing some upgrades on the property. He's going to do new flooring, paint, and then they're putting a kitchenette down in the basement right now for those tenants. So, and he's pretty much doing all this with the concessions that he got. So
wow.
So he's really not out of pocket too much on this, and just has an awesome property.
That's great. I think that's very exciting, and I really like the fact that you brought out that he has a lot of different options related to the property, which is something that I think that we like to highlight a lot is to have just a lot of different opportunities and options, for a property. And he's currently using probably the most time intensive option, and obviously he's cash flowing while he's living there very well. And then it sounds like because of the location that he's at, he selected that on purpose as well, that he has short-term rentals available as an opportunity as well. So I really like that. I think that is going to be really cool, and I am excited to see what he does in the future for this property.
Me too. We'll have to have him on the podcast once he gets everything, situated. I think everyone's on 6-month leases right now, so we'll see what he decides to do with it when those lease times are up. And it would be really cool to have him back on the podcast and just see how it's been going with that property.
Absolutely. Do you know if he intends on moving out after that 1 year mark, or is he probably going to settle here a little bit longer just due to, the opportunities that this property has for him?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. But I'm pretty sure that he's so in love with this property. It would be hard for me to imagine that he would want to leave after a year, but I guess it depends on the strategy that he decides to go with. He still has a room available in his Colorado Springs house that he just keeps for himself. And so, he can go back there if he wants. He can stay up here. He can move to the next one. So yeah, we'll see, but it would be hard to move out of this one for sure.
So he's cash flowing $1,000 in his Colorado Springs with an empty room.
Yes.
Wow. That's absolutely amazing. Good for him. That's great.
Yeah, because that house is, the setup is just crazy. There's like a bonus room, and basically that's where he stays. But basically has the separate apartment in the basement. So, and then a couple rooms on top. So yeah, he is doing well with his strategy for sure.
That's great. That's very exciting. Well, thanks so much for sharing this property with us. I hope this kind of strikes some interest in people that were maybe interested in living out in the mountains, and weren't really sure what the market was like out there for this type of strategy. And clearly it works pretty well if you get the right property. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing something relatively new for everyone.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to doing more of these. So.
Awesome. Well, where can people reach out to you if they're interested in doing something like this?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me on my email. It's leah@envisionrea.com. And I am happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Leah. And everyone, we will see you next time. Thank you.